Guys, I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Today we are going to talk about full stack. Basically, why we need a full stack. What is a full stack? Full stack is nothing but uh, a combination of a set of tools basically required for B2B application or a B2C application. What are B2C and B2B applications? B2B is basically one business or organization develops an application to support another organization. For example, accounting systems, right? Accounting systems which are meant for corporates, they would be sold on a subscription basis. A company, accounting technology firm, or let's say who's expert in the financial technology, they may develop an application which is related to banking or related to chartered accountants, etc. And basically, they are not serving the end customers. Therefore, that is called as B2B application. Whereas coming to B2C applications, B2C applications are all our applications like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. All these are internet applications. Basically, the end users are directly connected to the organization or the application. Therefore, that is the difference. You can see in terms of number of users, right? In terms of number of users, B2C has to support billions of users, including like YouTube has more than 3 billion users. Similarly, what is the problem it is going to solve? B2B, in case of B2B, there is a problem solution, whereas into say, B2C, it is basically providing some kind of content. It's a content, or let us say social interaction, reviews. It is kind of a connecting the people. Basically, LinkedIn is connecting people, Facebook is connecting people, Instagram is connecting people. Basically, somebody will share content, some other people will consume that content, interact with the content, right? Therefore, that is the nature of the B2C applications. Therefore, B2B B2C applications have billions of users, and their main revenue source is basically advertisements and data sharing with the third parties based on whatever terms and conditions we agree upon while signing. That is the modus operandi with which they operate. Primary source would be their source would be ad revenue, and secondary source would be sharing of data. And in case of B2B, directly it would be a subscription based model, wherein it could be a monthly subscription, or it could be an annual subscription followed by support licensing cost or something kind of thing. Okay. And similarly, if you talk about the cost, it would be very high in case of B2B application, whereas in case of B2C, it could be absolutely free, or sometimes it may be minimal charges, maybe monthly. If you talk about AHA OTT app, right? Basically, in nowadays, it is from Telugu industry, right? Therefore, it mostly has Telugu movies, and some of Hindi movies they may be launching soon. Therefore, they have a annual subscription of 299 rupees. Sometimes they may offer, even have some offers which are offered at 100 rupees during the launch offer, etc. Therefore, these are the kind of B2C applications where the subscription is minimal. Whereas if you go to a big Oracle kind of application, where let us say accounts payable or accounts receivable modules, it would be the licensing for cost might be running into crores. Oracle database also is an application, right? The license may be 5 crores, 6 crores, depend upon the size of the organization and the data volumes that are existing in those organizations. Okay. Full stack application architecture. Okay. Now, why we need to learn a full stack application? I mean, why not something else, right? uh, See, all the software roles, maybe application developers, maybe 10% or a 15% of the entire spectrum, right? There could be several other roles, supporting roles, testers, business analysts, and there would be I mean cloud DevOps infra engineers, right? But if you talk about in a basic sense, somebody needs to create an application first, right? Somebody needs to create an application first. In earlier days, the entry barrier was very high. Means to develop an application, it was a Herculean task or a very difficult task to develop an application. But as we move on in the past 10 years or past 15 years, we made huge progress in terms of I mean making open source tools and frameworks available, so that anybody who learn a little bit of programming and who practice some kind of basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript, they can develop their own application. They can develop their own website, portfolio website, or they can deploy on the cloud. There are many cloud providers available, right? Therefore this is basically starting from an high entry barrier where we cannot build an application unless until we are a big organization, or let us say we are from let us say MIT, Harvard, or kind of high-end educational institutes located, the research institutes located in United States, etc. Right? From that generation onwards, we came. This application development has become democratized, and it has become it has reached common people. Basically, when I say common people, anybody, not only from a computer science background, anybody from other backgrounds also can develop applications. Therefore that is how we have moved. Therefore, what are the components of the application architecture? When I say full stack, basically there would be a user, and there would be a front end, and there would be a back end. Back end is basically transparent to the user, and that would consist of node.js server, or a Java backend, or let us say Django backend. And there would be a Django backend, or any backend which is written node.js backend which is written in JavaScript. Therefore those will be again interacting with the databases, and databases can be multiple databases, relational database, and there would be non-relational no SQL databases. Sometimes it can be a graphical database, graph database, wherein network connections will be analyzed, where basically friends, the connections between friends, whether if you want to display friends you may know, or people you may know, right? There would be certain pop-ups that would be available in your home page, like if you go to Facebook or Instagram, right? How it is able to recognize using the network databases, basically graph databases. And similarly, there are in memory databases, 3ds, and cache. I mean, lot of information which is static or reusable information, basically can be kept in a memory, in memory, for the fast response cycle and better user experiences. Therefore when we talk about database, we normally think in terms of relational database, but there are multiple other types of databases, including HDF file system used for the big data. And there are many other Hadoop, right? Hadoop cluster, right? Where basically you would be using HDF's file system, right? Therefore, there are many type of databases that are available. Therefore, it follows a request response cycle. Okay, user basically places a request, and there would be a front end or a client application which is running, which is executing in the browser. Okay, basically whatever you do, you require a browser. Browser has a capability uh, to capability convert the response which is received in the form of files, right? The response which is sent by the files is digital information in the form of files, right? Then who is going to convert that information into a graphical user interface, like a colorful menus, filters, pictures, images, etc.? Who is going to convert? Therefore that responsibility of converting the information or the response received from the backend is the responsibility of the browser. Okay, let us say in case of Chrome browser, it will be a V8 engine, which is written on top of using the JavaScript. JavaScript is also a programming language, but we call it as a script to differentiate between Java programming language and almost the programming constructs, or the available syntax, etc., would be little a bit different. But otherwise, in terms of programming language, JavaScript has all the features that are available in other programming languages like Python, C, or Java. Okay, full stack roles. If you learn full stack, what kind of roles are available? Full stack engineer. Full stack engineer basically can develop an end-to-end application. starting from user interface. Going to a whiteboard and doing a planning kind of session where basically with the users and say what kind of look and feel you want, how what are the uh, various menus you want, how is the user interaction from end to end in terms of how many pages should be there, how they should be placed at what should be the header, reusable components, what should be appear on every page as a common component. These are all things will be dealt by the full stack engineer. Basically, he will be developing, interacting with the users for the front end part, and also he will be writing a backend using a node.js framework, which is again javascript based framework, and then he would be connecting that to a mysql database or a mongo database. Therefore, full stack engineer can develop his own application. Even in the people who are oriented towards entrepreneurship or yeah, they want to start their own business, they can basically create an application and become an entrepreneur, or can start a startup. Okay, that is the advantage of full stack engineer. Let us say after learning full stack engineer, you are more motivated towards the front end. You like color scheme, aesthetics, and you have an artistic nature kind of thing. You like to have a good front end. Then you can go for a front end engineer. Let us say you are good at programming and you like backend. You want to do some interaction with the file systems, and you want to interact with the databases. SQL. I mean to say, everybody will be learning as part of this course SQL, and there would be every module will have interactive sessions, as well as you will have assignments given, and those assignments you will be solving on a day-to-day basis. After every session, you will be given an assignment which you can do at home, and you can also get those assignments. When I say assignments, small topics or small exercises, and you will be solving them on your own, and then you will be getting clarifications done in case you are unable to solve. Mostly we'll be covering such that you will be able to solve on your own. Okay, therefore that is where you can go towards backend engineer as well. And similarly, software test engineer, if you know both front end and back end, there could be some more opportunities available as a software test engineer, basically, where there is a development done, and you will be doing some kind of, you'll be I mean organization which hires you as a software test engineer might also conduct additional training or add-on training to teach a few tools which can be learned in a couple of days, basically to make you as a software test engineer. In case openings are people are not available, then people can also be observed. Full stack engineer can also observed as a software test engineer. And similarly, uh, let us say who has managerial skills, okay, who can break a big solution into small components, right? Those people can go towards product manager roles. And people who are good at socializing with the people and inspiring the people, right? Those people can become developer advocates. Each and every organization will have multiple developer advocates, basically advocating. Let us say somebody has developed an open source application, right? If that application or a library has to be made popular, right, they will hire some developer advocates, such that they conduct live streamings on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, etc., and they popularize that particular application, and also make sure that that is used by the larger developers, developer community. In terms of GitHub has open source developer community, they inspire the open source developers to use the new tools that are coming into the market. Therefore, companies, it is similar to having a PR manager kind of role, but PR in terms of PR manager for developers, right? That kind of role is the developer advocate role. Similarly, remote developer empowerment. Nowadays, the full stack opportunity is not limited to India alone. uh, any developer who has learned full stack can work across the world. A lot of opportunities available in Canada, Australia, United States, UK, and even Singapore, Malaysia. People can work remote. Nowadays, the culture is remote culture. Therefore, there are more than dozen to 15 reputed online remote opportunity companies are there day by day new companies are coming up who are providing remote development developer opportunities. And also there are many opportunities those who want to become mentors, right? Even these companies hire as a mentor, and they to conduct internal trainings, etc., right? Therefore who is interested in teaching, they can become mentors, right? Therefore these are the various roles that are available. Therefore it is not just like one role that is there are multiple roles I have just listed, and there could be many more than these roles which are basically specific to organizations. Okay. Basically we are going to cover at a high level job opportunities, application architecture, basic HTML, CSS, how browser works, JavaScript, React, databases, Node.js. These are the in the course basically we are going to cover all these topics. And other than this, uh, uh, myself and our team is going to support on many other non-curriculum based or non-course based help they will be providing in terms of hands-on learning, cloud deployment, projects. We'll be doing after each module. Let us say after HTML, we'll be doing one mini project, and CSS another mini project, Node.js, React. There would be four mini projects, and there would be a final project which will be a complete capstone project running into 7 to 10 full working days. You'll be working on that final project, and you will be given multiple options to choose to develop various applications, and such that you can become a full stack end to end, starting from planning, system design, till the cloud deployment. Entire cycle can be, you people can learn that cycle. Therefore that help we will provide, and similarly we will help you to create your CV and portfolio. Portfolio is very important for any full stack, not only full stack developer, any developer who is basically develops a code. For them portfolio is mandatory, and portfolio also will be guiding you through various templates, and you can yourself, you are creative, yourself with the skills you have learned in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can yourself create a portfolio website. Okay. And similarly interview preparation we will help it out, and mock interview. And therefore these are the various things which we are going to cover as part of the full stack course. And we would be I'll be going further into the details. I mean, we have seen application architecture, right? The When we see the same architecture in terms of layers, right, we have a presentation layer, and we have a business layer, business logics. Business logics are specific to, let us say, the application can be a pizza ordering system, the application can be a railway ticketing system, right? The application can be a, let us say, payment gateway, or a Paytm payment wallet, right? Therefore the business logic is one which has to be separated from the presentation layer. And similarly there is a data layer as well, which is called as a persistent layer. Okay, that also needs to be separated. Why we need to the why we are learning, let us say, React or Angular kind of thing, is basically to decouple the monolithic application, which was the old generation kind of developing an application as a monolithic, right? Therefore now we are going to disintegrate or decompose this into multiple components, and separating each layer's functionality such that there is no cross impact. Let us say if you mix presentation layer and the business logic layer, and there could be some issues when we are trying to make changes in the business logic, the UI may get impacted, similarly the vice versa, right? Therefore we need to separate those layers. That is the best practices which needs to be followed as a full stack developer. And similarly there would be a database layer which would be interacting with the persistent or a data layer. Okay, you can see, I mean, I have already explained, you can see yourself. In a monolithic architecture, everything will be combined. There would not be any segregation or a component compartmentalization or a component wise. There would not be development. Whereas in the a new upcoming microservices architecture, basically everything you can um, uh, first is you can create components, and similarly you can create every component as a microservice. Means, let us say, you have various features. Let us say one is payment related information, another is, let us say, video related information, you want to display videos, right? Another is related to, let us say, books. books related to, I mean, there is an application which has selling of books, selling of videos, let us say selling of some let us say CDs, or let us say CD, etc., right? Therefore you can utilize, we have the flexibility to use for each of the functionality. We can create a separate front end within the application, and backend database you can use a different database. For one component you can use MySQL, another component you can use MongoDB, another component you can use Postgres, another component, let us say you have a social interaction, let us say you have a module called forum module. Forum, you have somebody comments and somebody likes and somebody shares, etc., onto the social media, right? There you can use a graph database kind of thing. Therefore if we go for a microservices architecture, then you have a flexibility to change your services, microservices, the backend services you can change accordingly. The front end also will be decoupled and made independent components will be there, which will be interacting with the corresponding backend or databases. Full stack tools and frameworks, basically what consists of the full stack. See, basic the entry level for any web development, the entry level document is HTML. Even let us say Angular, Vue.js, React, Java, any you take any web development application, the entry point would be HTML, right? And similarly, HTML acts as a basically skeleton. Just a moment. Okay. HTML acts as a skeleton, and CSS provides the flush or the structure to the HTML document. If you write HTML tags, it will not have it. It will not be shown properly on the HTML document. It will just show some kind of text messages kind of thing. But if you want to give shape, color, animations, user interactions, then you need to have CSS. Therefore, HTML is always associated with the CSS. Okay. Now that we have learned, I mean, full stack development, and we know what are the components that are involved in the full stack development. Now let us look at the how when a common user or end user interacts with a browser, how the from starting, what happens basically, background, what the browser does, right? In a browser, when you type in a website, it there would be a data source, DNS ping will happen, and it will initiate a connection. It is a TCP connection in case of normal websites or in a traditional application. In case of let us say video streaming or a live streaming applications, there would be a UDP connection. The difference is that in a UDP connection, the connection need not be continuous. They can send data pockets, so that one pocket can play. Meanwhile, while it is playing, another pocket can come at a certain gap, certain gap. Therefore, the communication in UDP connection is not continuous; it can be intermittent. Okay, like in YouTube, right? Once we buffer for, let us say, 1 minute, and the next one can come later. Therefore, that is the technology which I mean, streaming application utilizes, wherein there is no need for the continuous connection. There can be breakage in connection. Meanwhile, the other pocket which is already reached the user can play to the user, right? Therefore, TCP connection is for normal websites and normal applications. And once the TCP connection is initiated, there would be a handshake will be happening. This is basically between a client and a server. And when HTTP request is placed, it will go to the internet. Either private cloud or a public cloud. All these applications are, I mean, made available through internet. Let us say we have deployed a application in a cloud, right? Then how people in USA or other countries are able to access, because those application, the Indian application which is deployed on an Indian cloud, the cloud, or let us say a data center placed in India, is connected with the internet. Therefore, that is the reason why ultimately client request goes to the server, and then it goes to the internet, and there would be there would be some response received from the internet, and those responses are received in the form of server response codes: 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. People might have seen when page not available, 400 error, etc., right? 400 is a client error, 500 is a server error. Therefore these are the response server response cycle. And what is the content which we receive as part of the server, right? That we have already discussed in earlier thing. Which we receive the response as a HTML and CSS, and some javascript is used for the manipulation of the HTML tags. If you want to dynamically add some HTML tags, etc., for that javascript is used. And then this whatever files that are received from the server through internet will be converted into dom document object model. Both in case of HTML it will be converted into dom tree, and CSS also it is converted into CSS object model tree. Therefore these two trees create a hierarchical structure, and then it prepares a render tree, and finally it will be painted onto the user interface. Therefore this is the entire cycle of the request response cycle. Okay. Now that basic browser and HTML and CSS you people have understood. Now what are the programming languages that are most in demand, right? See, with the advent of the Python, which is basically a loosely typed language, you need not declare the variable types, etc., right? You need not mention whether it's a number or a decimal, or let us say a constant. You need not mention, right? Therefore there is a flexibility, and mostly Python is used in the data science. Okay. And nowadays with the advent of artificial intelligence and machine learning, right, Python language is becoming more and more popular. Therefore the top three languages right now, if you see, Python, Java, and JavaScript. Okay. uh, Python is meant for data sciences especially, but there is also full stack framework called Django framework, which is less popular in terms of application development. More of Python is more popular for the data science projects or data science applications. Whereas Java, right, Java language is most suitable for the people from the computer science who has studied Java, let us say basic Java, advanced Java, JTE, etc., right? They have studied as part of the educational curriculum, or in their engineering, or MCA, or something kind of let us say BC, or in their regular education. Then for those people Java is they need not learn another language, right? They can continue with the Java, and they can use Java for the backend. But even the people who have learned Java, they have to use the front end, some front end. They might be using Java front end, or sorry, Angular front end, or React front end, or Vue JS, or some people might write the front end in plain HTML CSS as well, right? Plain HTML CSS. Therefore the people who learn Java, and they can become a backend engineer. They would be having more in-depth knowledge in terms of developing a backend using a Java. Even then Java people require, for the front end part, they need to learn an additional language, which is JavaScript. But for a new guys like you who are learning newly a programming language, right, for the both the front end and the back end, you people can just learn JavaScript, and you can use for the both back end and front end. React is based on JavaScript, and backend Node.js is also based on JavaScript. Therefore you need not learn multiple languages. With single language you can implement entire develop a full stack application. Just a moment. Any question? Guys, so far guys, so far if you have any doubts, kindly post in the chat. Let me pause for a moment. Anybody has any questions so far? Shall I proceed? Guys, shall I proceed?
Yeah, you can proceed.
Okay, I'm proceeding with the. I hope. Okay, I'm proceeding with the uh, demo. Just a moment. Okay, right. You can see other languages which are C, C++, and C sharp. Basically, these languages are most performant languages. C, C++ is, gives the best performance among all the languages. Why? Because they are native languages, and they are especially used for the scientific applications in research and development, like space research, defense, and clinical pharmaceutical industry, where you have some data needs to be analyzed. In case of image processing, remote sensing applications, right? National Remote Sensing Agency we have in India, right? Those people, especially for the R&D purposes and scientific applications, C and C++ are popular. And there are some applications, traditional applications like B2B applications, which are developed in C language, C++. But more or less right now the trend is, more R&D kind of thing, these languages are used. And as I told you earlier, right, Java and JavaScript is not same. And Java is a different kind of language, and JavaScript is very easy, user friendly language when compared to Java. That is the reason why anybody from non programming background, it will be easier for them to learn JavaScript. And both support object oriented programming, but mostly for the full stack development we normally don't use class components. And React has given functional components, right? Plain functions. You need not go for object oriented programming in the JavaScript, or let us say MERN stack or a mean stack, right? uh, Using React or Angular, you need not go for the class based components. Earlier, during the initial days of React, we used to have the class components, but later on they have moved on to the functional components. Functional components are very easy to build. It is just like function, take declaration, function name, function, add numbers. If you want to add numbers a comma b, and just return a plus b, that's it. Simple. Within 3 lines you can write your code in JavaScript. Whereas in Java you need to write a big program, multi-line program. You have to declare, you have to import some packages, you have to declare the type of the variables, and you have to utilize a lot of things are there, and you have to build the parent class, child class, all those things. That complexity is not there in the JavaScript. That is the reason why, I recommend for the people who are from the non CSE background, who has not studied Java as a subject, need to go to for JavaScript. Okay, basically this will not be much useful for you, because you people are just learning. I just Java JavaScript, mainly it has a asynchronous programming. Means if there are two programs, it will one will say I will not block your work, you can carry on. Basically, if there are multiple functions that are triggered at one shot, it has a call stack wherein it will manage internally. Okay, it will not, for example, you request the data from the database. You can just request and forget. It will not wait for response. It will not give the it will just send your request to the call stack, and it later on there would be a callback function which will receive the response and throw it to user. That means user will do some other work. Means user has placed a request, and it need not there, the connection has been disconnected. If there is an active session, the application performance will be very low. Therefore, this JavaScript supports asynchronous programming, and it has promises. Promises also support, promises are mainly used to support the asynchronous operations. For example, in this case, right, two functions, small functions are there, print me and test, right? Basically, if you set timeout, if you are calling set timeout and test function, normally we expect set timeout is called before, therefore it should be executed first, right? That is the basic understanding by looking at the sequence of the execution, right? Set timeout should execute first and then test function should execute, but it doesn't happen because set timeout is there, right? Set timeout, there is a 2000 microseconds, though set timeout is called earlier than the test function. Set timeout because asynchronous programming, there is a waiting period of 2000 microseconds. First test will be executed and later on uh, print me will be executed. That is the unique feature of javascript. And the call stack, this is the architecture diagram. You can just see whatever I've explained, right? How there would be a loop which is call stack, and the complete I mean how the entire cycle will happen when we place a request, where it will go, how it will be entire call stack. Okay, coming to the React, right? We have already told, we have already learned in the architecture part that the best way or a best practice to develop an application is component based. React out of the box supports component based. I mean, all the whatever you develop, functions or anything, it will be in the form of components only. That means these components can be reused across the applications. You can build multiple microservice application, and let us say you have a authentication or a login authentication and authorization, right? If you have a module which is common for multiple applications, you can develop once and reuse. And another important feature of React is virtual DOM. Okay, see, we have learned that in browser there are certain files which are received from the internet and they are converted into document object model, and after that it is rendered, right? Now in React provides another layer of document object model, which is a virtual DOM. What is the necessity for a virtual DOM? In case of a real DOM, if there is a small change in the application, entire screen will be refreshed, entire DOM will be rebuilt. Whereas in case because React introduced the virtual DOM, React has image, the mirror image of the actual DOM in the virtual DOM. If let us say there is a small change in the front end, right? Then virtual DOM, what it does is uh, it identifies that particular change and compares the change with the actual DOM. It only refreshes only that particular part of the application. It will not refresh entire DOM. Therefore, virtual DOM is basically acting as another gate before going to the real DOM. Real DOM present in the browser, virtual DOM is present in the React application. Okay, therefore that is the and other than that, there is a performance simplicity. Okay, therefore these are the key features of the React application, and mostly this is supported by I mean, this is open sourced by the Facebook has developed internally this particular library. I would not call the React as a framework, rather it is a library, but it has dozens of npm libraries to make React a very flexible framework, a flexible library, which will basically by utilizing those many flexible libraries, React is becoming a framework. I mean, Angular, it has its own architecture, and it is an opinionated architecture. That means you don't have flexibility to have your own design, your own development standard or a standard practices. You have to follow the Angular ones. Whereas in React, such opinionated development is not there. You can have your own flexibility, whatever creativity, whatever tools you want to use. Let us say in case of React icons, you can use React Strap, you can use styled components, you can use material UI. I mean, this is especially to I mean to this is to build UI components out of box. Material UI provides pre-built components. Let us say pop-up windows. I mean, there would be bread crumbs, icons. Several things are that are readily available through npm library. Okay, this is the basic comparison. I mean, in terms of Angular right now, Angular 14, React 18, and Vue.js. So I mean, these are the three most popularly used. And right now in India, earlier India Angular was most popular one. Slowly, companies are transitioning from Angular to React. Recently, even American banks which are operating um, in India, they have started moving some of their applications from Angular to React, so that the heavyweight Angular applications can be easily understood by the developers if they are converted to React. And the development life cycle is also very low in case of React. Okay, in case of Angular, even if you want to develop a small component also, you need to go through an entire cycle. Okay, in terms of popularity, you can see I mean blue one is the React and red one is Angular. United States, United Kingdom, Canada. So I mean, you can see India, right? As I told, it was initially basically React was less popular. Nowadays, in last 3 4 years, React has picked up a lot in India. In all the startups earlier, they were not using React. Now, I mean, earlier we had very less, or you can say minimal startup ecosystem. Last 5 years, I mean lockdown or 2017 onwards, last 5 years, we have almost 100 unicorns which have born out of India, right? Bangalore is the Silicon Valley, right? Therefore, a lot of more than 100 startups have crossed 5,000 crores valuation. And similarly, in Hyderabad, we have T Hub, right? They have recently launched T Hub 2, wherein they are going to basically have 1,500 startups in Hyderabad. I mean, they want to make similar to Bangalore. They want to build a startup ecosystem in Hyderabad as well, right? Therefore, I mean, this is one more point is basically once you have become a full stack developer, you would be most sort of person for the startups, because startups requires initially, not even initially, for at least its maturity state, there would not be any differentiation between the roles. They require a person who can develop end to end. They will give you a module, let us say the shopping cart module. You have to develop independently entire shopping cart module connecting to the database, etc. And then that would be it is a microservices. Similarly, there would be a products guy will be there, product management team will be there, who will be basically placing all the e-commerce products, and there will be a separate team who will be handling that. Therefore, they require who can starting from designing the product interface, how products look like, what kind of filters are there. All these all these designs will be taken care by product team. Similarly, there would be a payments or checkout team who will be building the payment interface. Once the guy has selected the products and checkout, after that there would be payment interface, right? There would be a different team who will be handling the payment interface. Again, those people also will be a full stack developers who will be starting from scratch. They will be developing the payment interface. And all these independent component microservices will be coupled together to bring out a bigger application. See, MySQL is, basically used in legacy applications, and even now for a normal relational database. For example, if you want to store an employee information, or a HR portal kind of thing, if you want to build, or an accounting application if you want to build, traditional application, MySQL can be used. Even startups uses, unless until they require special social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook. For even for startups, for normal applications, they can go for MySQL, because MySQL is the license fees is very less. Even if you go for the production license, the license fees is much lesser than the Oracle database. And similarly, if you want to go for real time analytics, IoT kind of thing, mobile apps, etc., where performance is required, and then there is a real time interaction between the user and the application. Let us say a status of available online, offline, all these kind of status, then MongoDB is preferable. Okay, other than that, data structure and all you will be learning in the course. I will not go into the details. And database popularity, you can see Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, etc., Postgres. And the you can see top Microsoft Access is not a really database. It is kind of a Excel database, but still it is popular in some of the countries. Okay, but in terms of, if you see traditional applications, Oracle, which is for the B2B applications, and MySQL for both B2B as well as for startups and traditional internet applications use MySQL, and SQL Server, which is from the Microsoft, that also mainly used for the enterprise applications by larger companies. And coming to the Postgres, MongoDB, Firebase, all these are the databases used by the startups. Redis is a in-memory database. Elasticsearch, SQLite is a just for POCs or MVPs. For smaller applications, SQLite is used. Okay, these are the things, and other than that, SAP HANA, these are all specialized applications for some specific purposes. Okay. Uh, See, we, as I told you earlier, right? We have a front end and we have a back end. Front end is, let us say, a React or an Angular, and a back end is a Node.js, right? Then what is the difference between JavaScript and Node.js? Uh, in the back end, JavaScript is embedded into the Node.js, whereas in the front end, it runs in the browser console. That is the difference. Everyone has to remember that node.js JavaScript in node.js can be run external to the browser. You can run as a server, whereas in JavaScript doesn't have anything in the front end. It has to obviously run into the in the browser only. How it will be run in the browser? It will be called in the HTML document, then only it will function. That means it doesn't have any external environment, therefore it is sandwiched in the, or a sandboxed within the browser console. Whereas in the back end, JavaScript will be utilized to develop servers, node.js server. And again, node.js utilizes the event driven architecture of JavaScript, which is asynchronous non-blocking operations. I mean, it is a single threaded application. I mean, node.js is a single threaded application, but because it has the asynchronous operations it supports, therefore it is a highly scalable in the sense it as the users grow, the performance will not decrease, rather it will scale with the increase in the users or the traffic or the data. MVC architecture, this is the most popular architecture in terms of model view and controller. Okay, this is the just basic representation of the MVC architecture. Therefore, this is how we need to decouple the application: a model, a view, and a controller. Okay, and as part of the course, we'll be utilizing several CI/CD tools. Basically, these are used for the development purposes and deployment purposes. GitHub, and let us say if you have a HTML or a CSS, you develop a basic static page. Immediately, you can check into the Git and push it to the GitHub. You can open a GitHub account, and those will be. I mean, as we once we start in the initial days itself, I will be introducing those, and Postman for the testing of the API testing, and Netlify for the deployment on the front end. The back end will be deployed on the Heroku Vercel, and similarly Firebase we can deploy the React application. GCP we can deploy the React application or the back end, and similarly we can we can create images inside the. Once we develop an application, we can create n number of images to make it scalable. I mean, let us say auto scaling. Let us say we create an image of the application, and let us say now our application being used in India. Tomorrow, some 1 lakh users suddenly started using in USA. Therefore, GCP has capabilities to auto scale. It creates another image, and auto scaling features are there. Those also can be utilized, but that is a different GCP. We can go into the deep, but I will introduce how we can use for the deployment GCP as part of this course. And there would be the people who will be dealing with the GCP deployment are called as cloud engineers. Cloud engineers, normally there would be a multi-cloud engineer or a specific cloud engineer, like AWS cloud engineer or a Google cloud platform, Azure. There could be many other clouds, Oracle, IBM cloud. Okay, therefore there could be engineers who are learning specific platforms, who are getting certified on a specific platform, or a people who learn multiple, who are having let us say 15-20 years of experience, might have implemented multiple clouds, right? Those people will be having knowledge in all the cloud deployments. Okay, course structure. Let me go to sideboard. Okay. Okay, a course structure would be basically timeline. Okay, around it would be around 9 weeks. Okay, 9 weeks. What is included in this 9 weeks? HTML, CSS, JS, React, React plus whatever external tools, Bootstrap, Material UI, all those things will be covered, right? In addition to that, we have Node Express. Express is part of Node, and we have, as I told, all the deployments, etc. is there. And in addition to that, day-to-day support in terms of assignments, and code practice, and portfolio. Portfolio already we have told, basically portfolio. For example, how a portfolio looks. Let me show you how a portfolio looks. For example, let us say somebody, you have shared a link to somebody. Let us say this is built in React. Let's say top 10 cryptocurrency rates as on today. When I say as on today, it is a live data, right? If we fetch data, right, you can see today is 26 August, right? You can see what are the Bitcoin, Ripple. These are the top three cryptocurrencies which are traded. Let us say 1 hour volume, 1 day volume, etc. This can be built in React as a components, and this is basically state, based on the shared state. There would be a state management in the React, and basically you can pass whatever API data, open source API data, you can pass it to the React, and it will render the data as per the whatever HTML code you have written inside the React, right? Which is basically in the form of JSX. JSX is nothing but it is a pure HTML only. There would be a curly braces, extra curly braces, which we will be dealing with in the course curriculum, right? And similarly, you can go for. I mean, basically, you will be opened a GitHub account, and Netlify. Okay, Netlify, you can deploy an application inside the this one. And similarly, for example, I'll show you a CRUD kind of thing. Okay, for example, if you people are able to see more, this is the model and this is the controller, and view will be in the React. I will show you how a server looks like, right? Right, this is a express server. Course is a basically, it is a security module, basically cross origin resource sharing kind of thing. And env, for example, if I want to put a this is a MongoDB URL wherein this is a URL where I would be creating my databases. Therefore, for encryption purpose, this will not be .env will not be going into your GitHub. Basically, it will be excluded as part of your gitignore file. Therefore, these details will not be going into the public environments, public clouds, right? Therefore, you need to use .env, and similarly MongoDB connections. And after that, there would be the starting point. What is the starting point, right? This is the starting point. API. If I API is the starting point, and this today to do root, there would be a root, right? Root will have some roots, the application slash whatever IP slash port number slash, there would be a root, to do's root, to create a new to do, or to edit in to do. Let us say if you want to change the status, whether if it is completed, etc. If you want to delete a to do, right? This is a router. Router is basically where it will go to a respective path of a URL. Okay. And then where is it located? I mean, slash to do's, right? After that, what happens, right? What happens? The to do controller is there. To do controller will a to do controller has multiple functions, right? Multiple callback functions. If you go to the to do controller, if you go to controller, we have imported get to do's, create to do's, etc., right? If you go to the controllers, to do controller, sorry, any you can go. Okay. Therefore, to do controller, basically you have again, to do controller is using to do model. Model is nothing but a table structure. I'll show you what is a model, right? Right. Model has a title, whether it is a completion or not. Title means, let us say, uh, to practice HTML is a to do, and whether you have completed or not is a status, right? Backend, you using the mongoose is a mongoose is a library for the developing database applications in MongoDB. Therefore, mongoose, using mongoose, you can create a structure. Once you create a structure, then you will write business logic. Therefore, what is the model? Model is a data layer kind of thing. And this is a controller. Controller is what it is doing, it is importing the model, which is a to do model, and then it is performing certain business logics, right? For example, create to do, delete to do, toggle status, edit to do, right? Therefore, these are the various to dos that can get to dos, right? Get to dos to get the to dos. Therefore, this is the basic structure. And server, let me go to the server once again, right? Therefore, we have to do API, right? In the backend, the backend server will be, once we execute a backend server, it would be available, and the API will be available for the front end application. Therefore, we will be using that in the front end application. How it will be used in the front end application, I will not go into the details, but just I'll brief you. For example, uh, services, right? HTTP common, there would be, you can create a data service. I've just commented. Okay, this is a data service. For example, localhost 5000 slash API is a my backend server. Therefore, I am giving the backend server. I'll use this base URL in my front end application, calling for various purposes, right? Guys, that's it. uh, just just a moment.